So guys, hello and good morning, or good evening, depending on which time zone you are in. And here's BellringerKat, or Malakia if you prefer, just call me Mal. And today I decided to, answer to a couple of your asks, both Anon asks and, asks that you asked me without being on Anon. And instead of typing the answer down, I'm going to try to, just to talk to you guys. And I'm doing this mostly because writing takes me a lot of time, because I'm a little bit paranoid about grammar, and I read and reread my my posts thousands of times. While, when I talk, I don't have, the capacity of caring that much about my grammar, because the words just came out of my mouth, and yeah, that's basically what you get. And I hope that my accent won't ruin your experience, and that you're going to appreciate the effort that I'm putting into this. So let's begin. And I got the first question from, I'm going to butcher the name, Krishna. I hope that's how you pronounce it. And the question is, so I came up with the theory that the nameless king is Ferrum. What are your thoughts? So I'm not as, schooled, as prepared in Dark Souls lore as much as I am in Bloodborne's. But as far as I remember, Ferrum is the name of the god of war that the Forossa Knights serve and worship. So, it actually, the name kind of reminds me of Fire God Flan, or something like that, which was Guinevere's husband, but I'm sure that they are probably different characters. It is actually possible, I think it's actually very plausible that Ferrum is the nameless king name. Or at least a name that he assumed after he basically betrayed his father, blah blah. The reason why I think that is not his actual name, the name he was born with, is because all of Lord Gwyn's children have the Gwyn part in their name. Guinevere, Gwendolyn. So it would be, would sound a bit weird for the firstborn to be named just Ferrum, just like that. It's not impossible, and I don't know. I don't know if there is any evidence that points towards Ferrum being the actual name, but I still think it's pretty plausible. Second question came from Jack Moskwerovich. Again, butchering your name, I'm sorry. And the question is there an explanation to why is there a beast-possessed soul at the base of the Healing Church workshop tower? This is a very good question, actually. I don't think that there is an explanation to why. But at the same time, it could be a nod to Lawrence, perhaps, because I think that in the main game, that's the only beast-possessed soul that you are going to encounter if you don't, if you exclude the Chalice dungeons. So if you never do the Chalice dungeons, which are basically optional, unless you want, some good gems, or to get the Platinum Trophy, you don't have to traverse the Chalice dungeon. Dungeons, I can talk, sorry. So what I wanted to say is that if you just play through the game, the beast-possessed soul that you find in the Healing Church workshop tower is the only beast-possessed soul that you are going to meet. And it looks like he or she, I don't know, I think it's a he fell down the tower. And basically he was stuck in there because the door is closed. It could be that he is perhaps a church hunter that turned into a beast-possessed soul, or perhaps a tomb prospector. Tomb prospector. Yeah, tomb prospector. But again, no evidence, at least I don't know, I'm not aware of any hints or, clues that can lead us to give this guy a name, or basically identifying him with a character that we know of. I wouldn't say that he is like Irreverent Izzy or Archibald, because none of them has something in common with this guy. If he was, let's say, a Dark Beast, or a Lorian's Loran Silver Beast, I would say, yeah, maybe it could be Izzy or it could be Archibald, but since he's a beast-possessed soul, with fire magic and stuff, the only character that I find that I can associate with him is Lawrence, but it doesn't, there is no solid proof about that. Another thing to take under consideration is the rune that this creature drops, which is the Beast rune, that reads, Beast is one of the early carrier runes, as well as one of the first to be deemed forbidden. This reminds me a little bit of course, Lawrence's rune again. There is this fact about the carrier runes, that the earliest that were discovered were those connected to the beasts. So this kinda, reinforces my idea that the Great Ones were discovered later, even by the scholars. I mean, in my head, it plays like this. The Bergenware scholar began to explore the Chalice dungeons, and the first creatures that they met were not the Great Ones, but the beasts, like those that we met in the Loran Chalice, and probably the Ptumerians, but they did not encounter the Great Ones immediately. So this is something that in my head it makes sense, because the idea is that the Chalice dungeons were, the tomb of the gods, and that the Ptumerian protected the Great Ones. So of course they wanted to keep the remaining Great Ones, especially, Ebritas and all her celestial children, in the depths of the chalices. I don't know, I think that is something that makes sense, and yeah, here's my 2 cents about this lovely enemy in the game that killed me at least 3 times in my first run. So, third and final question of the day from Ananon. What are your thoughts on the Beast Claw Hunter in the Nightmare is Izzy and the Dark Beast partly was happened to Archibald theories? So, let's tackle Dark Beast Parl / Archibald first. Because I think that this is the one for which we have some more evidence that is not true. Because when we kill Parl, we get the Spark Hunter badge. The Spark Hunter badge actually says that this badge was crafted by Archibald for his friends. So, if this, I think it's clear that Parl is one of Archibald's friends and not Archibald himself. Which, in a sense, at least in my head canon, it actually means that Parl is actually Izzy. But this is just, related to how I see the story in my head canons, and is not supported by anything in the game itself. But I think it's safe to say that Archibald is not Dark Beast Parl, since he crafted the badge for his friends and not for himself. But, by the way, let's read what the Spark Hunter badge says. Archibald was Archibald was fascinated by the blue sparks that emanate from the hides of the Dark Beasts, and dedicated his life to its artificial reproduction. In a style of inquiry that incidentally closely followed the methodology of Bergenwert. My pronunciation is awful, but I hope you got it. Again, this also kind of states that Archibald was not part of Bergenwert. Like he was, we know that he's the eccentric of the Healing Church workshop. So he most likely was someone that came after the old hunter. So he's most likely not an old hunter, despite, the fact that both Daisy and I have him in our stories, as part of the old hunters, but he probably was not. And so it reminds me of what Simon says when we enter the nightmare, and he says that, we remind him of how the scholars of Bergenworth used to behave. But of course, we came later. We are successive. Our presence in the nightmare, our presence in Fishing Hamlet is successive to that of the Bergenworth scholars. And so is Archibald. And no, he's not Dark Beast Parl. As far as the first theory, so that the Beast Claw Hunter in the nightmare is Izzy, again, there is not that much of evidence for that. I actually think, in some weird way, that possibly the suspicious beggar might be Izzy. And I think that there was even a lore video made by someone about this. I don't remember, because I watched it so many months ago, possibly even a year ago. But again, let me check on the wiki. What actually, what does it drop? Okay, so I finally managed to find the Firing Hammer badge, which is the one that is dropped by the hunter, the beast hunter. The wiki doesn't even list this character among the enemies of the hunter's nightmare, so it took me a little bit of time to find him. The badge, again, is the only hint, the only clue that we have about the identity of this guy. It basically talks about the powder kegs. It doesn't mention Beasthood in any way. It doesn't mention Izzy. It doesn't mention the forbidden tools that Izzy used to create. But at the same time, there is something that, a loose connection between the powder kegs / auto workshop, which were, of course, their predecessors, and Izzy. Because in the Chalice Dungeon, you meet the Beast Claw Hunter, and he is wearing the Charred Hunter set. The Charred Hunter set is the same set that Jura's Halley wears. And we know, of course, that Jura and his pals, they were basically pro-beasts, in a sense. So this doesn't exclude the idea that at some point the powder kegs were deemed heretics because perhaps they embraced the ideas of Izzy. So basically that, beasthood is part of humankind, and that the whole blood just awakens, but that it's already there. So it's not something that, that comes from outside. And I can totally see the powder kegs embracing this kind of ideology, because they actually see the beasts as people, the beast as people, because they actually, that's absolutely true. Beasts are people, and so it makes sense, but again, I don't think that the character himself is Izzy, because yes, he wears, he wields the beast claw, but so does Izzy's admirer, which is again the character that I was talking about, that you fight in the Chalice Dungeons. So I don't know. I think that this guy too is a powder keg. That's it. I think that there is a connection between the powder kegs and the beast form, and probably Izzy was involved, but I don't think that the character himself is Izzy.